that this is it. You don't think it'll happen? I mean, you don't think there's a danger that after he's out of office, people do want to pursue charges? I mean, I could see there could be a public clamoring for that.
Yeah, like it's possible, but look, I know predictions are dangerous things to make, but I will make two predictions. One, the impeachment dream is dead. He will not be impeached, and if he is, it will be by a bare Democrat majority, and he will not be removed from the Senate. Yeah. He will also not be prosecuted after he is president, whether that's in 2021 or 2025. It's not going to happen.
I think I think your analysis is correct. I also think that happens to be the correct course to take. But no doubt in my mind, this was the last hope for those who really wanted to see impeachment pursued in the near term. And I think Pelosi here, ultimately, her hand is strengthened in terms of holding off Nadler and the others.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's this fundamental idea from the Democrats in the House that the American people just don't get it, and that if it's just packaged or presented the right way, it will resonate with them. I think that's completely wrong and it's condescending. They do get it. Yeah. The problem is the substance here. You have a case of, at best, attempted obstruction. There was no underlying crime to obstruct, and no actual obstruction actually took place. Right. If you want to build a case around that construct and you want to run with it, God bless you, go for it. It's not going to happen.
And that's what's so fascinating to me is I still see, I mean, we were always like, oh, the 1,000 federal prosecutors who said that they would have indicted him. I mean, look, you're a former, is that true? Would a person have been indicted under these circumstantive facts?
I think it's telling that some of the best evidence that has been brought here has been the testimony of John Dean trying to liken this to Watergate, which completely fell flat. This letter from 1,000 former federal prosecutors, which, with all due respect to a lot of my former colleagues, I think is ridiculous. The fact that that made it into an exhibit yesterday before Congress is a joke. And then yesterday's performance, which was at best mediocre.
I mean, I think that's really what. It's funny because on these things, it's almost there isn't that much to dissect here because it's just over. Like it's one of these things where the finality of it just washes over us all when you're like, wow, like this thing really is dead.
That's the one part I'm glad about.
If Democrats want to make that political judgment and move to impeach, well, then I would actually have more respect for that. You know, have the courage of your convictions. You have all the information you need here to draft articles of impeachment. Draft them. Stop dragging it out. Stop saying, well, we need more time and more witnesses. Draft the article of impeachment. Vote on them.
Let's get it on.
And let the chips fall where they may.
I think that's really well said. And to your point, look, because of the guidelines that the guidelines that this falls under, this isn't really a legal question. It really is a political question. And the American people, much as Democrats may wish it were otherwise, they elected a guy that they knew was not going to respect the letter of the law, norms, and guidelines that other presidents have held to. Not that they have always held to him that well, but they knew what they were getting with this guy, and they elected him anyway. So the idea that we're going to have a massive uprising over the president telling Corey Lewandowski to fire Jeff Sessions or what, it's fantasy. There are plenty of legitimate criticisms. Plenty of this president. This is a legitimate criticism, but the American people have basically said, we're concerned about other things. Like, move on. We're concerned about other things.
I think you're right, Crystal. And you're right. There are plenty of political issues, policy issues, performance issues to attack him on in the next 18 months leading up to the election. But if we see this dragged out, it will almost make true the president's assertions that this was, in fact, a witch hunt. And I defended Mueller all throughout this process. I said this has to continue. It's unfair to criticize him because he can't punch back. He's done. If the Democrats insist on dragging this out, though, for the next year, then it will become exactly what President Trump has described it all along, which is basically a farce.
Well, that's how I've looked at it, and I think it was a great farce. One thing I do really respect, actually, about like AOC and others who call for impeachment is they're like, no, it's a political decision. They're like, it's not because of obstruction of justice or whatever. They're like, just impeach him because they're like, we need to send a message that this is not okay. And it's not about Mueller. It's about like his whole presidency.
I appreciate the honesty.
Fine, thank you.
And that's something that's kind of my position. Like, if you're going to impeach him, so low down on my list is what he said to Corey Lewandowski and Jim Comey. Like, that is way at the bottom of my list of concerns over this president. I don't agree that it's a farce. I think there were legitimate things that needed to be investigated. We needed to know what Russia did, how they interfaced with the Trump campaign.
2017.
That was all. We learned a lot more. I mean, we had the indictments. There was a significant amount of additional information there. That was important. It wasn't a farce. However, if you're going to go after and impeach this president, do it on the things you're actually not mad about, like the really most egregious things that he's done, not the inner workings of whether he followed the DOJ guidelines.
I agree.
Yeah, well, there's one thing I want to get you on is within this report is that how is it that the Democrats should respond from here, which is calling for more witnesses? Is that just something that will drag this? I mean, do they even have the legal authority to subpoena some of Mueller's aides? Because it looks like they're the ones who wrote this.
That would be a big mistake. I mean, they can try, but now we're really getting into. You remember all those times where Mueller said, "I can't get into internal deliberations."
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what those witnesses, those aides, would be testifying to. Do we really want to go down the line of all 19 people to get each of their individual views on every decision made? No. I think that the Dems, Congress could do that. It would be a big mistake. I think. Look, we've heard all along we have to let Mueller finish, which I agreed with. Then we have to see the unredacted report. Well, then we have to hear from Mueller himself.
Yeah.
Now we're going to hear, we have to hear from Don McGahn, or we have to hear from Corey Lewandowski. If that's what we hear, then it will be just tricked out over and over and over again. It'll never be resolved. So I think that would be.
I'm really hoping they just move on.
That would be the one way to go.
That's what I'm
That'd be the right way.
Joe,
Thank you,
great to
Joe.
see you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it very
Always
much.
a pleasure.